Yuito is a kid that was born without any abilities in a world where everyone possesses supernatural powers. As a result, his father decided to experiment on him, making him lose his memories of the experiments, and giving him a ranked powers that could evolve into SS rank. He was nearly killed by others but was saved by a member of the OSF, the other suppressive force. Others are evil monsters who feed on human brains. Since then, Yuito grew into a bright and optimistic boy who is both strong-willed and kind, who wishes to join the OSF to help and save other people. He trained so hard and finally managed to join the force. He sees his name all over the news as the next big shot, but not for good reasons. He's from the prestigious Sumeragi family. His father is the town president, and all eyes are on Yuito, who joined the OSF despite having a low psionic aptitude, which makes everyone think that he used his family power. On his first day as an OSF member, he, his mate Nagi, and his childhood friend Hanabi meet their assigned team. The team is led by Sito, followed by Tsugumi with his C-rank clairvoyance ability, and Kajero with B-rank invisibility. Nagi introduces himself as a C-rank aerokinesis user, Hanabi with a rank pyrokinesis, and our boy Yuito uses his A-rank psychokinesis. This means he can throw rocks at your old school bullies without touching them. The introduction party stops before it starts because there's a monster attack in town, and our boy has the task to sit back and watch the adults play, until he sees a kid crying out for help because her mother transformed into a monster. Despite being ordered not to, Yuito has no other choice but to rush to save the girl. He cannot bear the thought of seeing someone suffer the same fate he almost suffered years ago. The monster stands between them and the small child, but without a second thought, Yuito transforms and uses his powers to knock it back. Even though his attacks are weak, he still pushes forward to save this girl. The monster chases him while he tries to push him back with his powers, and despite being considered this young prodigy, he still manages to trip in the crucial moment, forcing a cutie named Kasan to save him. She has the same power as him and uses it to restrain the monster while he smashes it off with a huge trash bin. When Yuito finally looks at Kasan's face, he realizes that she was the one who saved him 11 years ago. The next day, after some intense practice, Yuito receives a call from his father arranging a meeting to talk about his mother, who passed away while he was still a baby. But first, he must fight some monsters attacking the abandoned subway system. There, the teams quickly get surrounded, forcing them to retreat. They manage to find a safe location. However, Kasan's younger sister, Naomi, quickly pushes her sister to the ground, getting hit by a sniper shot. Naomi's powers start going berserk, turning her into a monster who starts attacking everyone within sight. Yuito jumps in using his sword to make multiple visual effects attacks on the other, before being forcefully stopped by Kasan standing in front of her monstrous sister. Suddenly, the monster disappears and Karen, the 2nd Regiment commander, appears. He asks everyone to keep the event a secret, and he will report Naomi died in battle. Later, Kasan tells Yuito that Saren, his older brother, is behind her sister being turned into a monster. Suddenly, another major monster attack forces them out to battle. Karen joins the two teams present at the last incident and orders them to go to a certain location. While on their path, Yuito notices Naga's memories about the incident aren't precise. He got mentally disturbed and spent a week in the hospital. Suddenly, they lose all forms of communication and get surrounded by other OSF members. The OSF accuses their platoon of performing human experiments. Luca, Karen's younger brother, shows up using teleportation and tells them to run. Karen shows up, and Luca tries to hit him with his hammer, but is quickly knocked back. Karen transforms into his fighting form and unleashes his power, SS rank Brain Eater. He can copy anyone's skills and use them. He quickly knocks everyone away using 3 different abilities at the same time. A fight breaks out, and Yuito stays by Kasan's side until he's attacked by his close friend Nagi. He was brainwashed and experimented on while he was getting treatment. Yuito uses his power to hold stones up to protect himself and Kasan. He tries to reason his friend back to reality, explaining Naomi transformed into a monster, instead of dying in battle, as Nagi remembers. However, he still doesn't bite it, and unleashes his new power, creating a tornado. Sito, the platoon captain, intervenes, stopping the massive tornado with his power. He gets heavily injured, but still manages to approach Nagi and knocks him out using electricity before passing away. Yuito and Kasan's eyes meet the deep of the abyss as they see Sito collapse. Suddenly, both start to feel a massive headache and a black hole appears. It absorbs several members of the OSF, including Yuito and Kasan. The two find themselves in a dark place, filled with red strings, and notice a screen, where they see Yuito's ancestor from 2,000 years ago. but they're separated by some strings, and Yuito wakes up in the same place he was before being absorbed. But Kasane is still missing. Gemma, the one who previously accused Sito, explains to Yuito the whole situation. Basically, the government is performing research to brainwash their fighters and turn them into monsters, and Karen wants to overthrow the government. Yuito tries to get back to his father, making sure he's safe. However, when he gets there, he finds his father against the wall, and Kasane is in front of him holding a knife soaked in blood. She starts rushing towards Yuito to attack and end him as well. Why, you ask? Inside the black hole she time traveled 50 years into the future. There she met a blind Yuito, the only survivor in the world. He told her that he and she not only have the psychokinesis, but also the SS-ranked red strings power, the ability to time travel, and exist in different timelines. And basically, she has to go back and kill him because the black hole grows larger every time he uses his power. And if he dies, the black hole will disappear and she will save the world. Back to the present, Kasane holds Yuito a knife point, but she can't manage to finish the job. She backs off and Yuito's father gives his apology words to his son, telling him to watch his back and about the nation wanting him. But before finishing, he gives his final breath. Yuito and his squad go back to meet his older brother, who became the new president, and he appoints Yuito as the new commander and hero. However, Yuito is suffering from some weird memory problems. He's in the middle of a patrol, and out of a sudden doesn't remember how he got there, nor about becoming a commander. But the doctor is like, "You're just stressed out, chill bruv." Luca explains the reason why Karen is plotting a revolt. The girl he loved, Alice, was brainwashed and turned into a monster when she tried to save him, and now he wants to go to the past and save her. The group meets Major Fubuki, who gives Yuito the medicine he forgot to take for his stress, the same ampoules that were shot at Naomi when she turned into a monster. The group sets out on a mission to slay monsters, but Yuito cannot use his powers. Every time he tries to, he suffers a huge headache. He takes the ampoule medicine, and as if by magic, he starts to feel healthy again. He immediately uses his power and one-shots every monster around. But at the same time, he's increasing the size of the black hole without knowing. They immediately set out on a mission to follow some cargo trucks to a warehouse. They explore this location and find out that the trucks are holding and transporting human brains, and those same brains are being used on Yuito's medication. He starts to feel glimpses of his memory again, and the group decides to escape the location, just to meet Kasane and her group again. Yuito tries to get an explanation from her, and she reveals that Naomi is still alive in her monster form, and that she needs the same medication to maintain her sanity until she is transformed into a human again. After hearing this explanation, Yuito truly believes that she ended his father's life. She gets a glimpse of what Yuito from the future told her and throws her first attack. The two start battling. She uses her powers, and Yuito dodges and blocks with his sword. They pass into a telekinesis battle, literally throwing rocks at each other, until she decides to take a pillar holding the ceiling and throw it at our boy. He tries to block it but gets knocked back, and his group retreats with him, teleporting away. Major Fubuki gives Yuito's team a mission to retrieve Naga's memory, but as soon as they enter they are met with a hostile Nagi who is brainwashed. He throws fan-like blades at them. Everyone does not want to hurt Nagi. Yuito tries to use his ability but passes out. Nagi calls them traitors and threatens to kill him if they try to attack. Yuito and his team later woke up in a room restrained in chairs. There he meets a scientist who claims to have met him and experimented on him 17 times 11 years ago. And his memory loss is because of his power, because before being experimented on, Yuito had no psionic power. The doctor now wants to dissect Yuito, as he developed a strong ability and is the perfect test subject. Major Fubuki shows up to save them and tells them to leave. While walking outside the building, Yuito learns that his brother set him up as a traitor, and he's now wanted for trying to steal government information. Karen shows up to recruit him, but gets rejected. He then mentions Yuito and his group going to Tochitsu, an independent city that wouldn't mind having a wanted criminal. Yuito heads with his crew to the new city, where he's welcomed despite never meeting them before. They are taken to a room, and Yuito is told to interact with a book to know about the history. A hologram of Kyoko, Kasane's squad leader, appears, and she reveals to be a designed child, a genetic clone created by Tochitsu 2,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago, the world faced a major crisis, and humans were forced to live on the moon for survival. Earth became safe 2,000 years ago, and Yuito's ancestors returned. At the same time, a comet passed by, bringing strange special dust that turned most of the people living on the moon into monsters. To survive, they pushed the dust onto the Earth, creating a barrier to keep it around the planet, allowing the monsters to spread into the planet. The group is taken to another room with another book. Yuito touches it and is unable to move. Tojutsu wants to take over his brain and use his power along with Kasane's, who was also taken by them. Luckily, she was saved by Kajero and manages to establish contact with Yuito to release him from the trance. Tojutsu's goal is to use Yuito's and Kasane's power to return to the past and never go to Earth. Both Yuito and Kasane's group manage to evacuate the location and meet outside. They exchange information and everything is revealed. The reason Kasane tried to kill Yuito, Kasane also being a design child, and Kajero being one of the moon people who came back to Earth 2,000 years ago. He survived inside a cryogenic chamber and pretended to follow Tojutsu's orders after waking up. The group separates and will carry out their new missions. Kasane's group will go back to convince the revolution to stop, and Yuito will do the same for his side. Upon returning to the city, Yuito is still considered a traitor and faces Nagi, who is completely brainwashed and has now S-ranked power. Nagi uses his daggers combined with his wind power to attack. The group manages to dodge and block it, but Nagi rushes towards Yuito, who doesn't want to fight his best friend. Nagi releases his immense wind power, pinning Yuito's comrades to the ground, and Yuito tries to run, taking the fight to another place. The all-out fight begins, forcing Yuito to use his powers to block Nagi's attacks. However, he starts to feel headaches. Nagi throws a dark wind ball at Yuito's back, projecting him across the street. Yuito manages to get back up and heads to the building they used to practice in secret. He uses his talk no jutsu to some effect, but Nagi's brainwashing starts to overload. But after a huge headache, he returns to his previous state, asking Yuito for his brain. He throws his flying daggers, but honestly, it's like watching a 4-year-old kid throwing random punches at an adult. An overload later, Nagi finally manages to make some scratches on Yuito, and when he's about to deal the final blow, his brain overloads and fries up. Nagi returns to normal and gives his last words, remembering their moments from the past when he hoped to die fighting against the monsters, not against his best friend. Yuito meets his older brother, who doesn't agree with Yuito's plan and reveals the truth. They've been waiting for 2,000 years to fulfill their ancestors' wishes, to use the Red String's power and get revenge on the Moon people. Yuito records everything to expose the government's plans to the citizens. On the other side, Kasane finds out the government is planning to use the monsters as a weapon against the Moon people. Her group heads to the location, but Tojutsu attacks, planning to take and use her powers. Naomi in her monster form promises to protect her along with the other humans there, who also got transformed into monsters. Naomi gets heavily injured protecting her sister, and they exchange their last words before she vanishes. At the same time, Karen appears and sees his loved one, Alice, the one who turned into a monster, as she also vanishes away. Karen, enraged, copies Kasane's Red String's power and heads to Yuito's location, where he's broadcasting what his brother told him. But at that moment, Karen appears and copies his power.